Hi everyone, Mark here. Welcome to my channel, Hosting and Stuff. Today I'll guide you through the installation and configuration of ISPConfig, a powerful and free hosting control panel. Whether you want to manage multiple domains or start your own hosting service, this tutorial has you covered. Here's what we'll cover for this video. Setting up a VPS. VPS as in a virtual private server. This is going to be our server that we're going to install ISPConfig with. We're going to use Debian on the server. Checking domain availability. We would require a domain for the server, so we would need to check for the domain if it's available. Connecting to the VPS via SSH. I'm going to use a Debian client, so we are going to use command line to connect SSH to the SSH. Logging in as root. We would require to log in as root for the ISPConfig installation, otherwise it won't install or install properly. Then we're going to do an update and then install the ISPConfig onto the server. Then when all that stuff is done, then we're going to purchase a domain and setting up a IP glue record. So then on the domain there's going to be an IP address so we can direct it to the name server. And then all the configurations for the ISPConfig that would include DNS, an actual creation of the website. We're not going to create the website from scratch, it's just to set up the template, and emails for the clients. Before we dive in, I want to extend a huge thank you to Absolute Hosting for sponsoring this amazing VPS. Your support makes everything we do here possible. We truly appreciate your generosity and commitment to empower creators like us. Thank you. Absolute Hosting, you rock. Why choose ISPConfig? ISPConfig simplifies hosting management, allowing you to host multiple domains with separate websites, emails, and databases, offer hosting services to clients, and the best part, it's free. For this demo, we'll use a VPS. While setting up a server at home is possible, it comes with challenges like port forwarding and needing a static IP address. Using a VPS bypasses these complications. I recommend Debian for its stability and compatibility with ISPConfig. Okay, the first step we would need to do is just to check if the domain would be available for us to use for our server. So you can select any name for the domain. In my case, I'm going to use hosting and stuff.co.za. Right. But you would notice that it wouldn't be available at this time because I already bought it. Sure, so you can use anything here. Let's try another domain that is available. Frank the Tank. Register. Oh, that is available. There. So frankthelank.co.za is available. If that is what you want to use, you can register it and buy it from Absolute Hosting. Right, so, but we're not going to buy it at this time. We just want to check if it's available, so we know it is. The next step would be is to set up the VPS. So we're going to hover onto the VPS, browse budget VPS. And then here's a selection of all the budget VPSs that's available. In our case, we're just going to select the cheapest one. It is within the minimum requirements of ISPConfig's system requirements. So it's got one CPU, 1 gig of RAM, one IP address, 200 megs per second download upload speeds. It's got 20 gig of storage and 20 gigs of bandwidth traffic. Sure, and it's soft cap, so it means when you reach over that amount, it's just going to be a slower connection and won't necessarily switch off the internet connection. So then we click on order now. Right, so now we got this window. Now the first option here that we need to change is the VPS OS template. We're not going to use AMLO Linux for this video. We're going to use Debian 12 for this video for ISPConfig. There's other options there. We don't really need to go through it too much, like the backup slots. That's something you can, with your own preference, choose. If you want backups, you can select more if you want to. Additional traffic, we're not going to set that up as well because it comes with traffic already. Right, so here's the important part, configure server. So obviously this information here is wrong. So here we're going to add, in my case, you can actually add anything here, but I'm going to just add server 1. You can even name it server, you can name it anything you want to, but maybe just to follow through with the video, name it server 1 as well, and then your domain, co.za. So this here is going to be the domain that you are going to select. So this is not going to be the same, right? So in my case, I'm going to use hosting and stuff.co.za. Oh, oops. Like so, right? So your domain, you're gonna put in here, the one that you first checked for, right? And then a password. This could be anything. Hosting stuff 1, 2, 3. Okay, so my case, hosting stuff 1, 2, 3. I'm obviously going to reset the whole server so you wouldn't be able to access it. Well, yeah. If you want to go through creating your SSH public keys and all that, that's not going to be in this video, so that's up to you. Right, so this is done. So you can click on continue. Just make sure you're human. Perfect. So here, if you don't have an account, you're going to create an account with putting all these information in there, right? So I'm not going to do that. You can do that yourself. It's quite simple. It's just questions and your addresses and all that. Right, so that's done. Right, so when the purchase is completed, you would most probably have to wait for about 5 to 10 minutes for the server to be set up by Absolute Hosting. Okay, so in my case, I already waited that and it's ready here. So first thing I would recommend you do is just to check that host name. So if this host name is incorrect, you can change it via the edit VM here, right? But it's recommended to stop the server first. Okay, so we stopped it now by clicking the stop button and to confirm it. Okay, so it's stopped now. Then we go back to the pencil and change this back to whatever you want it. In my case, mine was correct in the first place, so I'm gonna press cancel. This is correct. But yeah, so in your case, you confirm it when you do the changes. Right, so now next would be to start it again. Right, and then you confirm that. Right, now the next step would be is to get the IP address. This is the IP address that I got. I would recommend you putting it into a text document like this here. It seems like I already done that already, but let's just paste it anyways, just in case. So we got this IP address. This is the IP address of our server at this time. Right? Then the next step would be is to open a terminal. You can use Windows to do this. You can use CMD or PowerShell. It should be about the same thing. In my case, I'm using Debian here, the GUI version of it for my client's, for my PC that I'm using. Okay, so the first thing is SSH, right? And then we're gonna add the username. So by default, Absolute Hosting gives you root user privileges at the get-go. In some other cases, it might be different. I think a good example is Google Cloud Services, where it won't be you won't be able to log in as root until you log in as the user and then log in as root. Here, we don't need to go through that process. We can just log in as root without no other users. And then the IP address. So the @ symbol after the root and then the IP address. That is that. Enter. Okay, so if you get a similar error message like what I'm getting here, it's maybe a good thing that this happened. Is that because I connected previously and I reinstalled the VPS, now it's now there's a key that's different that's not supposed to be there. But there's a piece of code here, or not piece of code, a command here that we can just run and to sort everything out for us. So you can just copy that and paste it here. Okay, so then let's try it again. There we go. So then we can type in yes, and then the password we selected. And when we signed in with Absolute Hosting, there was the host name, and next to the host name, the password. That same password goes here. Perfect. Now we are in. Right, so let's do first thing is let's just check if all the host names and all that is correct. It's always just a good thing to make sure. So it's etc, then hosts. Sure, so long this reflects your host name, it should be fine. So this is server 1, hosting and stuff, .0.0, server 1, that's the host name here. Perfect. So now next would be, we don't need to save, we can just quit it. And the next one would be host name. And that's server 1, that's perfect. Sure, so if you don't know how to use Vim, there must be other videos around that will show you how to open files, how to save things, how to quit things. This is not the video for that. Sure, so the next step would be to update Debian. So apt updates -y. So this is the y is a switch. So it means that it will automatically say yes to everything that's there. So we don't have to confirm anything. It will just update everything seamlessly. And then up apt upgrade. And also -y for the exact same reason. You can press enter. And it'll go through to the update process, and there's nothing to update, 100%. So that's completed. Just a warning, if you're using other VPSs that you're not root with, like you can see here, we are root. Now, in case that is not the case, is that then we would need to do first from any command that we run here is run su-enter. What will usually happen when you press this, they would ask you for the password for the root user. Perfect. After that, then you can go carry on with the commands that I've sent you, the vim, the updates, and all that. Okay, so now if all that is done, we are actually ready now to install ISPConfig. So the first thing we would need is to download the ISPConfig script and run it. So with the ISPConfig website, they actually give you one command to do everything. I'll just copy that now and paste it here. Okay, so if you can see, it's wget, basically downloads. And then here's some switches and all that. So in this case, you can see use Nginx. I'm going to use Nginx in this case. If you don't want to use Nginx, or you prefer Apache, then you just remove this lot here, and then you can carry on, then it will install Apache, and it won't install Nginx. And then there's other options, that's for the ports for the VPS, and unattended upgrades if it requires it. Right, so now we can just enter that. So this process normally takes a few minutes. I would say about 5 to 10 minutes. But before you wait, oops, I accidentally minimized it. It's going to ask you a question warning. The script will reconfigure your entire server. We don't actually have anything important on the server, so there's no loss. We say yes if in case something happens. So we're going to just go through with it, yes. Okay, like I said, this might take 5 to 10 minutes. The video might skip things. So we'll just wait from here. Okay, so now the installation's completed and everything seems 100%. And then it will give you your username, your password for the admin user, and then the root password for this MySQL server. You can copy those, because if you lose it, then you're not going to be able to go into your server. And we'll just add it over here. Now we got that, all the information ready. So next step would be, by this IP address, we can copy it, or we could have just copied it from the text document we were in. Copy it, and on the browser we can open a new tab, paste that IP address in, and then add the port 8080 onto the address with the IP address in. And then it will just give you a warning that it's unsafe. You can go help me understand, and then you can proceed, and then you get this section. Here we're gonna, username is admin, and the roots, the admin's password is gonna come in here. And that's different from your root's password. This is not the same password. This is the password we've taken from the installation. And that's this password over here. And we can paste that in and log in. There. So now we have a fully functional ISPConfig. Well, it's running, but we still have to configure it for domains and for emails and websites and all that. So we still need to go through that. In the next step, we would need to add some records for your firewall. So first thing is you would need to click on the system here at the top, and then firewall, and then add firewall record, and then just all these stuff here is already there, so we don't even have to check the records. We can just click save, and then it's done. Okay, within the web GUI now, the first thing we will do is create a client. So you can obviously see it's empty here, so we're going to add a new client. I'm just going to name the client as server. This doesn't really... Let's just put in the things that is required. It's like with the star there. Email, you can just put info at stuff.co.za. Add your correct country. My case is South Africa. Sure, so that would be it. Contact name, sorry, you have to add contact name. That would be Mark in my case. And we do also need a password. Yeah, so that will be it. Then you can save. Sure, now we got an account that's named server. So under DNS, we're going to add a new DNS zone with wizard. The client, we're going to use mock server domain, the domain that you set up for yourself. In my case, it's hosting and stuff.co.za. IP address, you can click on it and then it will list the IP address for you. If it doesn't list it, then you can just get it from your text document here. Then NS1, NS stand for name server 1. We're just going to put in NS1 dot the domain we are using, hosting and stuff.co.za. And in S2, we do the same thing, but we change that 1 to a 2. And then an email address. info@hosting-stuff.co.za. Sure, so there's DKIM that's normally used for email addresses. We can't enable it or disable it because we don't have any emails. Sure, so otherwise we are completed here. So we're going to do the emails later and I'll show you how to enable it. Create the new DNS zone. There it is, the new DNS zone. So if we go in it, like so, then everything would be like this normally, because this is based on the template. Right. Now, but we do need to add 2 A records here. One is going to be NS1, and then the IP address. Save. And then add another one, NS2, and save. Oh, sorry, I forgot to add the IP address. Save. Awesome, so now everything is done here. So now we can actually start putting the domain in the system. So I prefer to use something called thedomains.net. So what this website is, it's a resale website that you buy your domains from. It's still a absolute hosting company, as you can see here. So first thing is we'd need to create an account. If you don't have one, you can just sign up over there and then sign in with that account details. Right. Now, first thing you would need is to put an account balance in. You can do it by billing, by accounts, and then billing. And then here you can add the amount that you wish to start with. 100 Rand is minimum, and then you can just add it from there. And then second thing we would need to do is we need to put a name server on the site. We would need to save one. So you can actually see I already created it over there and there, but let's just go through it. So first thing is name server. Now, if you remember, we created those 2 A records. So it's ns1 dot hosting and stuff .co.za, and then the IP address. So this is where it's really important. You can read here, IP addresses are only required if you require a glue records for your name servers, and we do require it. So we're just going to pop in that IP address. We will just go back into the text document. That is the wrong thing. The text document, and we're going to copy this IP address and we're going to paste it there and submit. I'm not going to submit it because I got that already, but then you still need to add another one and change this NS1 to NS2 with the same IP address, and you submit that. Then second thing you would need to do in the site is contacts, add, and then you just fill in all your credentials in here. Just remember, you have to scroll down. There's more than that there. So fill in all the stuff with the red stars on, and you can submit that. Again, I already done that, so I'm not going to do that again. Then domains, then I've register a domain. Then here, like we tested, frankthelang.co.za. That's a domain. And then the contacts we used, I'm just going to click on hosting. That's what I created previously, and then I'm just going to select it on all of them. Right? So these selections is up to you. Period is obviously 1 year. You can change it as many years as you want. Auto renew, meaning if you got credit, it will auto renew the domain. Locked does not really work with co.za accounts, so that doesn't matter. So then their name server group. We didn't create a group, but we did create the name servers. So name server 1 is going to be ns.your-domain that you have chosen at co.za or .whatever. And then the second one as well. So this one's ns2, like so. And then you add to cart. And then it should be in the cart. You just open the cart and check out. Just make sure that the server is running and yeah, just make sure the server is running. Okay, so this might take a few moments for it to register the domain name with the name server. It can, so far I read, can take up to 48 hours, but at most for me it's a bit sooner than that. Okay, but what you can do just to check for it is you can go into DNS checker, I think. Yeah, there it is. That's not spelled right. Hosting and stuff. .co.za. Perfect. So this means that is being detected, and you can also use ns. Sure, and that is the name server. Perfect. So that is done. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is just set up the website. There's a button here, Sites. You can click on that. And then add website. We're going to go to Client, Server, Domain. In my case, it's going to be hosting stuff.co.za. In your case, it's going to be your domain that you selected. And then you can tick SSL and Let's Encrypt SSL. Let's Encrypt SSL will put a SSL certificate onto your website. Right, so then we can press save. Just maybe wait for a few moments and then check it out and see if anything happened. It's sometimes a good idea to just close your browser and reopen it, because I did this a few times, so sometimes it messes up some things. There we go. This is the default index page of your website. So this is yeah, this is where your website's going to be, and you can see there's a lock on it. Let's see it. Connection is secure. So that is the part when we did the SSL over here. That is that lock over there. Okay. So if you want to add your website and all that, you would need to go into FTP. You have to create an FTP account and you have to connect via FTP to add your website files. Right? And if you require PHP, like here, it's currently disabled. You just select the PHP FPM and you can just select default and save. So if you're using a WordPress website, you can easily install it now because now PHP is installed. And if you have any website requirements that you need to do, I also do website design. I'm going to leave a link below in the description that with a form, then I can You can just fill out the form, and then I'll send you a quotation afterwards. Also, leave a like and subscribe below. That will really much help me out just to get my channel monetized. Also, I got a affiliate link below for Absolute Hosting. If you guys can use that, if you're going to get any of Absolute's hosting services, it will also help me really much if you use that affiliate link. Awesome, thanks. The next thing we're going to do is set up an email address for hosting and stuff.co.za by clicking email. Okay, I'm just going to delete this for the time being. So first thing we would need to do is add a new domain. Client, server, domain, the domain I'm using. In your case is going to be the domain you are using. Domain keys, identify mail, that's a DKIM. This is a security feature. You would enable that and generate the keys. Save that. Sure, so that's done. Okay, so now we got the domain. Now we need the email inbox or mailbox. So we're gonna add a new mailbox. We're gonna add a name. Let's just do hosting and stuff. And then the email address is info@hostingandstuff.co.za. Put a password in here. Sorry. Okay, so there's many options here, but you can go through them. Quotas obviously mean how much data the mailbox can use. So you can put in 1000 megs for a gig if you want to. In my case, I'm not going to. And yeah, there's so many options here. You can go through them and see what you need and don't need. But in my case, everything default is great. So I'm going to save it. So now I got this email address. Now, the email is not going to work at this moment due to Absolute Hosting blocks SMTP mails ports by default. So the first thing we would need to do is to unblock that by going to services, my services, view add-ons, and then over here, allowed SMTP traffic. So you select your domain that your VPS that you're using. In my case, it's this one. Order now. Just make sure you're human. There, done. I have done this already, so I'm not gonna do it again. So what you would do is just check out. I'm not gonna do it because I already have done this. Right, so now next thing is we would need to put a reverse DNS onto our host name. So what that means is that we're going to set our IP address to resolve to our host name if someone requests it. So here's our DNS. As you can see, I've done that already. I think, okay, so let's just go through it just to show you. So you would select your VPS here. You'll put your IP address in there. The reason why it's not working at this moment is because I got this one here already. And then your host name goes here. So it's server1.hosting and stuff.co.za. And then you can confirm it, and then it will add it here. So you can just test it if it works by our DNS check in Google. And then we can just take our IP address like so, paste it there, look up. Then it should pop up like that with your host name. Perfect. And then as well, you would need to do is go back into your DNS, go into the zone that we have created previously, and then we have to create another A record, and this one's called server 1 with the IP address and save. Okay, so we're mostly done at this moment. What we can just do to just test everything, if everything works properly, MX toolkit or toolbox. I always do this after I completed a domain. Okay, so I like to use a super tool and then select domain health and then add your domain here, hosting and stuff.co.za. And then we're just going to check for errors. And I'm sure that might be a few. Okay, so there's two things here that we can sort out. It's these two things here. So we're going to go into the DNS like here that we're already in. So as you can read here, there is a DMARC issue. No DMARC records found. So we're going to create that quickly. So now under the DNS, we can just start over, go into the zone, and then you can read that there, DMARC. We're going to click on that, and we're just going to scroll down and activate it and save. Perfect. That's that. So now let's do the scan again. Yeah, so it did take a few minutes. So as you can read here, there is no issues now. There is warnings. DMARC quarantine reject policy not enabled. The reason why it's not enabled is just in case you know, something goes wrong with this and it just deletes all the emails. We don't want that, so we're just going to keep it as it is. So long it's enabled, it's fine. The name server or the name server are on the same subnet. It's actually the same server altogether, so that there we can just leave it as is. And then the expiry value out of recommended range. If you want to, you can change this to what it's recommended to be. There, it goes over here. And then you can save that. And that's a wrap for today's tutorial. I hope this guide helped you get started with ISPConfig and setting up your hosting services. If you find it helpful, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and a subscribe to Hosting and Stuff for more tutorials, tips, and tricks to boost your hosting skills. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any updates. If you have got any questions or need some extra help, drop a comment below. I'm here to help. Also, if you are interested in professional website design to complete your hosting setup, check out my portfolio. There's a link below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.